Hey, good morning. So we're starting a new simon today. Hopefully we'll finish it. Shin Ayin Gimel. Din Shtei Guzuz Terois B'Shtei Aliyas. We're talking about, you've got two balconies over a Rishus Harabim. And the idea is that you want to somehow join them, that you've got the choice of either being Ma'arev Achas or being Ma'arev Shtayim. So this is really a continuation of the previous simon. The previous simon spoke about two Chatzeros and ways of connecting them. If you've got a Pesach between the two Chatzeros, then you're able to make one Erev or two Erev as the person wishes. If there's a total breach between the two, then you've got to make it one. Well, so too in Shin Ayin Gimel, what we're doing today, we're dealing with balconies, which is just an extension really of that theme. So it says the Machaba, Shtei Guzuz Terois. You've got two balconies, Pirush, Nesarim, these beams, Boltim Misfas Tikra, that sort of extend from the roof, Halia, Lirishus Rabim, into Rishus Rabim, Haboltos Mishtei Aliyas, which are projected out from two roofs, Zu Keneged Zu, one opposite the other, V'nosen Benehem Nese Rochav Arba, and you put a beam between them. Now there's this discussion exactly what it looks like. So if you look in the two pictures there, in the Dirshu, either it's across the Rishus Rabim, where you've got one flat on one side of the road, another apartment on the other side of the road, or house, and then you've got a balcony, and you've got this neser, this plank going across, or it's on the same side as the next picture. So that's debated. So that's in that longish footnote. So you've got either way. You've got two guzuz terois, two of these balconies, and you've got a neser rochav arba, a plank with 4 tefachim wide. Harihu pesach. That's treated like a pesach. That creates a connection between the two balconies. Or ma'arvin yachad, and therefore, if you want to, you can either be ma'arv yachad. Says the Ramah, v'im ein hamerchak shebeneim arba. If the two balconies are so close together, there isn't 4 tefachim between them, then you don't even need a plank. Okay. And if you wanted to, you can either be ma'ar shtayim, i.e. each balcony can make their own little eruv, and they've got the choice. That's the point. Let's do the Mishnah Berurah till there. Zu keneged zu, rotzaleima, sivkot nalef, shezeh boilet midarim letzafen, v'zeh mitzafen ledarim. Neseh, a plank, uboinon sheyikba hanese b'masmarim. The plank has got to be well fitted in, screwed in with nails. Shelo yuchal litle b'Shabbos, that it can't be just taken away before Shabbos. I would imagine that the reason I want it to be the yikba b'nese is because I wouldn't walk on that plank if it wasn't secure. But either way, haruk Pesach. So then it's treated like a Pesach. Pirush, and thereby you can carry to move things from the both chatzeres mizelazeh im yirtzu la'arav yachad if you want to make one eruv to kimen sheyesh neser b'neihem rochav abba, since you've got this plank of 4 tefachim width, har yochel bekal leilech mipesach aliyah zu la'aliyah shekenegdei umitztarfim, you're easily able to access one to the other, and therefore that's joining them together. For kosva prima godim Dafka Kamosha Tzia HaMachaba. We're Dafka talking in the way the Mechaba illustrates it. Shaya Guzutros Boltos Minalias Sheesh Bohen Dierin. They're coming from a home where there are residents. For Kaimelon Le'el B'Simen Shinayim Beisifei, the Shnei Batim Yochelim La'arev Derech Pesach Shebenehem, that we've said previously that you've got two homes and you can join them together through an entrance way between them. Even if it's high up, it's a second story, like in the picture. But if it's coming from 2 chatzeros, not from 2 batim, then loy mahani because it's not coming from a residential place. It's coming from a chotzer where people don't live in a chotzer. They access it, they use it, but they're not living there. So therefore, it says the Prima Godim, that would be different. Dalet. So this is going on the Ramah. The Ramah says that if you've got a neser between these 2 guzuz terois, that creates the Pesach. But says the Ramah, by the way, if the 2 guzuz terois are so close to each other that they're within 3 tefachim, then you don't even need a plank. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you've gotten Dalet, Hainu she'ein bein guzuz terois guzuz terois hefsek avir rak pachos me'arba tefachim. Sorry, not 3 tefachim, 4 tefachim. Then v'imkein yochel ifseh bekal mezelazeh. You don't need a plank 4 tefachim is already there. What is it? It's that amount. So you can just step over it. It's not such a big difference, not such a big gap. Dinner hachi, then even without a nesa, the same halacha would apply. K'mo b'nesa, as if there was a plank there. Sheyechoilin la'arev yachat k'sheyirtzu, that if they want to make one erev, they're able to do so. V'imrotzu ma'arvin shleim, if they want to, they can make 2. V'davka shesmichas hagzustra zulazu, haya ba'orach kol ha'kaisel. And specifically where these gzustros are not along the length of the entire wall. Because if the gezustra, the nesa, was across the entire length, or if there was an opening of more than 10 amas, then that's similar to the case where you've got a wall between 2 chateres, which is there's a gap of more than 10 amas, or it's totally breached open. In that situation, you have to make 1 eruv, and you cannot make 2. Because it's a piritza, it's not considered the Pesach. Okay, v'im rotzu. So this is the Mechaber continuing. So if you've got, like in the 2 pictures, you've got 2 gzustros and you've got a good plank between the 2 of them, then if you want ma'arvin yachad v'im rotzu kolachas ma'arv la'atzma. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkot involved. V'davka k'shein ha'nesa machazik rak abor tefachim ad esa amas. Davka, again, we're talking about a case of a nesa which is 4 tefachim wide and up to 10 amas. But if you've got nesarim all the way, more than 10 amas, ma'arvin echad v'lo shnaim, like we said before. V'da, d'mashet tzrichin arv yachad, that which you need to make 1 erev, hu rak lahayel, it will just benefit to enable you to carry on the balcony itself. And so too, from the chotzer, kalim sheshovzu b'bayis, i.e. kalim that came from the house, you're allowed to take them onto the chotzer, onto the gezustra. Avol mikol mokum afilu lo yirvu irvu yachad yochelim kol echad la'arv la'atzma yachotz in botav aliyah sheloi. That all we're trying to do over here is connect the 2 gezustros, but I don't have to. And if I want to make my own little eruv, so I can carry my kalim onto my gezustra, that I'm entitled to do. Okay, says the Mechaber further. Avol, im hoyu zu shelo keneged zu. But if they're not opposite each other, so in pictures 1 and 2, what are they called? In these 2 pictures, they're opposite each other, they're next to each other. That's no problem. But if they're not next to each other, but they're on an angle, so if you take a look at the next page, if you look at picture number 2, on the dirshu is on the next page, so they're at a slight angle, if you can see. So then it's different. Says the Mechaber, Avol im hoyu zu sheloi keneged zu, she'achas meshucha lemizrach v'achas lemarov, then einam yochelim la'arev yachad. Because there, if you're walking at an angle, it's a little bit more scary, and walking across at an angle, people don't feel so comfortable, and that does not connect them properly. That's essentially the issue. Also too, if one was higher than the other one. So if you look at picture number 2, that's what he's describing. If you look carefully, you'll see that the one on the right is higher up than the one on the left. You can see on the next page. So again, it makes access very difficult. That's lo choshev Pesach, and therefore is not considered a Pesach. V'hani million, when is this true? When the gap is more than 3 tefachim. So in other words, if you look back at picture number 2, when is it a problem if one gezustra is higher than the other one, if it's more than 3 tefachim? Which it looks like in that picture it clearly is. But if it's only a very slight incline, which is it's less than 3 tefachim higher, or if it's on an angle and it's on a very sort of mild angle where it's less than 3 tefachim, then that is not going to be a problem. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton's.
All the other cases, that's not been a problem before. The step up of 3 tefachim. If there were just 2 chatzeres next to each other and there was a step of 3 tefachim, that was never a problem. So why should this be a problem?
What was the example? If you got 2 chatzeres next to each other,
there's a pesach between them. There's a step of 3 tefachim. That wouldn't be a problem at all.
Yeah, no. Here, all he's saying over here is that when what we're describing in this simon is that if you've got 2 gezustras and you've got a plank which connects them, that creates a pesach, and they've got the choice of being ma'arvin yachad or shtayim. That's really what we're saying. However, if the plank is not just straight, but either it's at an angle or it's an incline, then that's a problem. But he's just saying that if that incline is very mild, or the angle is very mild, the two gazustros are within 3 tefachim of each other. That's almost as if they're opposite each other. And if it's an incline of less than 3 tefachim height, one between the other, you can ignore it. That's what it's saying. Okay, so it says, I don't think we did Zion. La'atzma, but often there, this is going on back on the previous Mechaba. Did we do this? I can't remember. באופן זה יהיה מותר לכל אחד לטלטל מכלי בשטח השייך לו, אמנם על השטח שכנגד הנשא. Yeah. So if you make your own little Eruv, then that entitles you to carry on to your own Gzustra, but not on the area which is connected the Neseh. וגם על הנשא גופה מסתבר דעוסה, שהרי כל אחד פורס למקום חברי ואיסון זה על זה. So if you look at, he's got a picture for this in number 10. Can you see? It's on the next page. On number 10, he's got 2 pictures there. Yeah, can you see that? That on the first one, there's a machlik is exactly what he's referring to. But can you see you've got 2 apartments there, and each one has got a guzustra, a balcony coming out. So if you made an eruv on your own, for your own little area, so you can carry from your house to the guzustra, but not in the area which is going to access the other one. Yeah, and can you see in both of those? And this machlik is exactly what it means. Does it mean all the way across in the gazustra and just that little area which connects the 2 together, or is it just in the top picture? It's just that small area which is mutter. So in that situation, you would not be able to carry across the whole gazustra, only in that particular area, like in these 2 pictures. Okay, let's carry on. So the Mechaba then finished off and said, if there's an incline or if it's an angle, it wouldn't work. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Sifkot and Ches, Meshucha leMizrach, Rotzalema Meshucha mimokum chaverta letzad Mizrach. That is, it's going at an angle. So if you look at picture number 11, he's got quite a dramatic example of that. But that's too far apart. Can you see? The one is too far. It's too much further down the road to enable you to connect the 2. Okay, and by the way, if you look at the next picture, the top left picture on that page. Others interpret the way Rashi describes it in that way. In other words, not that it's like in the picture number 11 at the bottom, but rather it's in the picture the top left, that you've got that balcony and then you've got a smaller balcony there, but the way to access the second balcony is through a sort of a plank which is in an angle. Okay, so either way. So, Meshucha leMizrach, so Sifkot and Tes, Einam Yochelim la'arv yachad. So in a situation where it's not opposite each other, or there is an incline, then it does not enable you to connect the 2. Why not? Because when you make a plank connecting the 2, you're doing it from the keren zovis, from the corner, or pischa the keren zovis le'av the inshi. That's the problem. The problem is not like I said that it's v'gam lefi she'ein hakesher yosher ele balachson omer. It's at an angle misyari adam laver. So there's 2 reasons. I just said one reason before. The 2 reasons why it does not work is A, because if it comes at an angle, it means that you're making a Pesach on a Keren Zovis, which people do not do. And number 2, people are a bit scared to walk when the plank is at an angle. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah further, Sifkot and Yud, Choshev Shapir. But if it's within 3 tefachim, it's a very marginal angle or incline, then it's okay. Because then we treat it as if the plank is horizontal or is not at an angle, and then it's fine. And kepesach, and it's considered like a proper pesach. That which we say that whether in a distance or whether in height, hainu there's more of a distance of 4 tefachim. And shezu gevaya mizu, turning over 2 pages. V'pachas mishleisha tefachim. Also, mirin davi ki'ilu heim shneim zeh zu keneged zu. V'noisen nesem mizu lezu, and you put a plank from one end to the other. Kim shehamerchik shebenem yosim arba tefachim. V'adinamik shemeruch zu mizu v'pachas mishleisha tefachim berichuk. If they're distance less than 3 tefachim, shezu ad lemizrach v'zu ad lemarav einum keneged zeh mamish, and they're just not properly aligned. Rak shemeruchas pachim mishleisha tefachim. It's just that they're away from each other, less than 3 tefachim. Amrina lovad, we apply lovad v'have ki'ilu heim zu keneged zu, and therefore it's as if they're opposite each other. ואז אף שעדיין יש אוויר רוחק בין זו לזו, יש מארבע טווחים, מוצא על ידי נסה שנויסים בין זו לזו. Then the plank would help. So that's the end of that simon. And essentially what we said in the simon is that if you've got two balconies over Rosh Hashanah, if you connect it with the plank, then you can make a Pesach, and you've got the choice between Ma'arv Yachad or Shtaim. If, however, it's further away from each other, either you've got to access it by way of an angular plank, or if it was one was higher than the other, then that would not work, either because you don't make a Pesach and a Keren Zovis, or because you're scared to walk on that sort of plank. But if it's within 3 Tvachim, then it would be okay. Okay, but say that, we'll leave it there.